early waking is one of the most frustrating sleep challenges because it doesn't just affect the night, it affects the whole day, and often it feels like it shouldn't be happening, especially when everything else seems to be in place. But one of the biggest issues with early waking is that it's often misunderstood from the very start. I'm Lyndsey, co-founder of the Holistic Sleep Coaching Program, where we train professionals to understand infant and child sleep through development, biology and behaviour, not rigid rules or unrealistic expectations. And in this video, I'm going to break down why early waking happens, because when it's understood properly, it becomes much easier to respond to. Before anything else, we need to define what early actually means, because this is where a lot of confusion starts. For many babies and young toddlers, a 6 a.m. wake up is completely within a normal biological range. True early waking is typically before 6 a.m. and that distinction matters because sometimes the issue isn't that a child is waking unusually early, it's that the timing doesn't match the adult's natural rhythm. This is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Adults have different chronotypes. Some people naturally lean earlier, others later. If an adult has a later chronotype, a 6 a.m. start can feel extremely early, especially if evenings are used as the only time to switch off, relax, or have adult space. So bedtime gets pushed later and total sleep becomes reduced, which makes early mornings feel even harder. So sometimes what looks like a child's sleep problem is actually a mismatch between adult and child rhythms. And that's important because it changes how the situation is approached. Up to the age of 2 years, overnight sleep often sits somewhere around 9 to 11 hours. Some children need less than that. So if a child needs, for example, around 10 hours overnight and bedtime is 7 p.m, 5 a.m. wake up makes biological sense. That's not early waking in the sense of something going wrong. That's a full night of sleep. And it's important to say this clearly. Overnight sleep includes normal age-appropriate waking. So the reality for many families is a few night wakes and then a 5 or 6 a.m. start. And sometimes simply adjusting the timing of sleep can make that feel much more manageable. There's also variation between children. Some babies and toddlers are naturally earlier risers. This doesn't mean they will always be early risers long term. Chronotype becomes more defined later, usually around 3 to 5 years. But some children do show a stronger earlier preference from pretty early on. And if a child naturally leans early, goes to sleep early, wakes early, there may be a genetic component. And just like with adults, this isn't something that can simply be trained out. You can support around it, but you can't force a completely different biological rhythm. And by the way, if you love understanding the science of sleep, check out our earlier video which dives into more of this. Beyond chronotype and sleep limits, early waking often links to a few key things. The sleep timing no longer fits, so if sleep is starting too early for their current needs, the body may simply complete its night's sleep earlier. Daytime sleep is too high. If there's too much sleep across the day, it reduces how much sleep is needed overnight. And development and change. As with all sleep, where children are developing, growing or unsettled, sleep patterns can become less predictable. The early morning hours are a particularly sensitive time for sleep because this is where REM sleep is more dominant, and during REM sleep the body is less able to regulate temperature effectively, which means the environment matters more. So things like room temperature being too hot or too cold, light increasing as the morning approaches, a wet or uncomfortable nappy, sudden external noises, these can all trigger waking more easily at this time because sleep is lighter and the threshold for waking is lower. There are a few different ways to approach early waking depending on the cause. You could deal with it passively, so adjust the adult bedtime earlier where possible, make use of early mornings for calm time or connection, using morning light to help support daytime energy, and dimming lights earlier in the evening to support earlier wind down. Then there's active, so you could gradually shift bedtime later if sleep is ending too early in the morning, moving naps slightly later to support that shift, and looking at daytime sleep in total and whether that needs adjusting. Or you could look at the environment. You could check the room temperature and clothing, use a blackout blind if light seems to be a factor, ensuring nappies are comfortable and absorbent enough, considering a quiet, consistent background noise if early sounds are disruptive, because often it's not one single factor, it's a combination. This is where expectations really matter. Early waking is not always something that can be completely eliminated. Sometimes it can be improved, sometimes it can be shifted slightly, and sometimes it's about making it more manageable rather than trying to force a completely different pattern. So if mornings are starting earlier than expected, it doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. It may be a full night of sleep being completed, a mismatch in timing, a natural early preference, or sensitivity to the early morning environment. And when those pieces are understood, it becomes much easier to decide what, if anything, needs adjusting. In the next video in this cluster, we'll go deeper into one of the biggest questions: why babies wake at 5 a.m. specifically, and what influences that timing. Because once that's understood, early mornings start to make a lot more sense. And in the meantime, you can dive into when early bedtimes might help and when they might be making sleep worse. See you next time.